The first time I saw conservation was in Lima, Peru, where I was born and raised. And I actually saw it on Cusco school paintings. Little did I know that I was going to become a paintings conservator. In the past decade, the Met has solidified its commitment in collecting colonial Latin American artworks. Before 2014, the museum only had one painting from colonial Cusco. That was actually the only painting of colonial Latin America. These 10 paintings are an outstanding gift by James Lee and his family to the museum. In the 18th century, there was a large group of indigenous entrepreneurial artists that were setting up workshops in the city of Cusco. And these were extremely prolific, taking inspiration from a global context, looking at European prints, also imbibing in the local traditions of the Andes, and then making it their own. The Cusco school has a predilection for idealized faces, a special detail to textiles, proclivity for bright palettes and bright colors. These particular paintings have the traits of a cultural identity. This is the type of paintings that they requested. These paintings were for export as far as Colombia or Buenos Aires, for religious buildings or even for private homes. In museums, we have palace paintings. These are core paintings. That was not what everyone else consumed. Most of the paintings were in stable condition. Some of them had been treated in the past. Several had layers of varnish that had oxidized over time, as well as overpaint that was covering original material. The first one that I picked from the group was Emblem of Folly. This is a painting that's inspired by a print by Boetius Adams Falsworth from 1624 that was almost a self-help guide on how to lead a pious life. So the fool is dressed in a jester's costume. He's mounted on a heavy horse that doesn't take him anywhere. He has a cat in a basket representing lust, and he's also playing with a windmill toy that would have been used by a child. Love is just walking to the scene, and she's ashamed. She's covering her face and pointing to the fool. The angel is looking at the viewer becomes the fool. This painting had been painted quite thinly, and because of the coarseness of the canvas, there would be scattered abrasions coated with overpaint very broadly, especially in the sky. So I was able to use the same solvent to remove both varnish and overpaint. And so freeing the painting from these extraneous layers, it was extremely satisfactory. You could get a sense of the background and the landscape opening up behind these figures that you didn't really see before, taken directly from Flemish paintings that traveled to the New World. After removing the varnish, textural issues became apparent. There were all of these extraneous bumps. Found that these were related to clumps of the wax that had been used originally to line the painting. I was able to do testing with small tacking iron with a control heat setting to see if I could coax some of those down just a tad. The idea here was not to really make the painting flat by any means, but really just to diminish the appearance of these deformations. After cleaning the painting, I looked at it again with UV light, and there was particular fluorescence on the angel's robe. It brought me to work with the scientific department here and look at the painting with a macro XRF. This is an instrument that scans the surface of a painting and plots in a map all the elements that are present. We've been able to develop the sense of the palette that was used in this particular painting. We found indigo in the sky, in the vegetation. The robe of the angel pointed to the presence of smalt, a potassium glass that is colored with cobalt. It really shows that trait of European pigments. The left ear of the fool has vermilion, whereas the right ear is actually painted in cochineal, which is a much darker, deep, and even somewhat translucent color, extracted from the female parasite that lives in prickly pears. I've retouched just the most egregious areas of aberration and loss. One of the areas that really came together in this painting was the face of the fool. Wrinkles that show his age. By retouching and bringing those together, I think you can get a sense of what the artist was trying to tell you. This is a human soul that is tired, that is aged, that is been doing this for a long time, and just kind of you can feel the weight of the distractions that this soul has had throughout his life. These works have been largely misunderstood because we learn to gauge value based on what's closer to an European experience. In Western art, we are almost obsessed with authorship. The fact that these paintings come from unknown artists, it reflects better the type of artworks that were present in the Andes. This is what people saw. So as a conservator, I'm trying to flesh out the reality of these paintings in a way that will give us clues as to who these people were and make connections to our present, to who we are as Latinx, Hispanics. For me in particular, as a Peruvian, as a person that grew up with these works, I feel extremely proud to see them at the Met. But I believe that conservation can shine light in the voiceless, in those communities or artists that have not had the focus before, providing all of these information that may not be as obvious, and take these works for what they are at their own value.